Hey everyone! Today I want to talk to you about some animals that I would love to keep as a pet sometime in the future. This is a video that several other animal YouTubers have done over the course of the past several months. I know I've seen Tyler Ruggie do it, I've seen Emma Lynn Sampson do it, I've seen BB's Beasties do it, and there's other people that have done this video as well. So I'm hopping on the bandwagon. Before we get started, let me just say this is just kind of a fantasy, a wish list, if you will. I have no intention of accumulating all of these pets, especially all at one time. That would be a bad idea. Currently, I am quite happy with the number of pets that I have, and I'm not in any kind of hurry to get more. That being said, these are animals that I would like to keep someday, eventually in the future, if I have the resources to take care of them and the space for them. So let's go ahead and get right into it. Number one on my list is a gargoyle gecko. Some of you may know this already, but most of you don't, and that is a little over a year ago, I actually did get a baby gargoyle gecko, and I didn't realize it at the time, but it was not okay. It was not doing well, and within a couple of days of me getting the gargoyle gecko, its health really started to decline and go downhill, and it sadly didn't make it. The breeder took full responsibility for it and gave me a full refund, but that was very traumatic for me to go through, so that's why I haven't gone out and got another one quite yet. Now you may be wondering, why not a crested gecko? Why a gargoyle gecko? Well, I feel like everybody has a crested gecko. Not as many people have gargoyle geckos. And so, being the kind of person I am, I don't really like to follow trends. I'm more interested in a gargoyle gecko than a crested gecko. Don't get me wrong, crested geckos are great too, but I'm not as interested in one of those as I am a gargoyle gecko. They're very similar, their care is very similar, but they do have their differences. Gargoyle geckos don't have the crest around them and the quote-unquote eyelashes that crested geckos have, and also they can drop their tail just like a crested gecko can, but unlike a crested gecko, gargoyle geckos grow their tail back. I think they're really cool animals, they're really adorable to look at, they have amazing eyes, they have beautiful colors and patterns. Unfortunately, I did have that bad experience with gargoyle gecko last year, and that was kind of off-putting, but I think I'm over that now, and sometime in the future, like I said, not right now, but sometime in the future, I do think it would be cool to try again and to have a gargoyle gecko. Number two on my list is actually the only other gecko that I'm really interested in at this time, and that is a Leachianus gecko. They're basically like a really big gargoyle gecko with loose skin, and their care is very similar to that of a crested gecko or a gargoyle gecko, just much bigger in scale. I have been fascinated with Leachianus geckos ever since I first found out they existed, and I think that one day when I have a lot more experience that it would be really cool for me to have a Leachianus gecko. Number three on my list is a blue-tongued skink. If you've been following my channel, then you know that I do have a bearded dragon, and the care requirements for bearded dragons and blue-tongued skinks are very different, but they take about the same size and closure, and they grow to be about the same size, and so a lot of people lump them together when discussing them. I was actually more interested in a blue-tongued skink than a bearded dragon, but I was researching both of their care, and the opportunity to take in a bearded dragon that was in need of a new home just kind of fell on my lap, and so I jumped at that chance and decided for now I'm not going to pursue a blue-tongued skink. But honestly, I still want one, and I do think that one day it'd be really cool to have one. Next on my list is a chameleon. Now, I don't really know a whole lot about the different species of chameleons. I know there are a lot of different chameleons out there. Some of them do better in captivity than others, but I do know that in general they require a pretty big enclosure with a lot of airflow through it. So a typical glass tank like an Exoterra or something like that really wouldn't work for them. You need something that has mesh or fence kind of walls on it, something where a lot of airflow can pass through it. They also can get really big, much bigger than they are when you see them at the pet store. But they are a more advanced reptile, and I have been keeping reptiles for a little more than a year, and I just don't feel like I am ready for something as advanced as a chameleon quite yet, even though I do a ton of research. I just feel like I need more experience with reptiles before I jump into something as advanced as a chameleon. Next, let's talk about the different kind of snakes that I want. Now currently I have 3 snakes. They are all ball pythons, but I would like to branch out and get some other species of snakes sometime in the future. One kind of snake that I would love to have at some point in the future is actually a hognose snake. Now the only reason I currently don't have a hognose snake is because of where I live. I live in the state of Missouri, and it is actually illegal to keep a hognose snake as a pet in the state of Missouri. The only way that I would be able to keep a hognose snake is if I were to get some sort of special breeding permit, and I just don't qualify for something like that right now. Maybe sometime in the future I might move to another state where it is actually legal to keep hognose snakes, but unfortunately because of where I live, I just can't. And that really kind of sucks because they are amazing snakes and they have the biggest personalities as well. I love their dorky little shovel nose. I just think that's so cute. And in particular, I really like the albino hognose snakes. I just think they are so cool looking with all that red and yellow. Also, someday I would like to potentially keep a Kenyan sand boa. Now this one may actually happen sometime in the near future. Maybe. I haven't decided yet. But the care for them is pretty simple and straightforward. And so for that reason, I might feel comfortable taking on a Kenyan sand boa at some point in the near future. They are just ridiculous looking. In fact, they're more like worms than snakes. I do like all of the different colors and patterns that they come in, but my favorite Kenyan sand boa morph is actually the normal, the wild type. I like the brown and orange on the wild type Kenyan sand boa a whole lot more than any of the morphs that are available on the market. Next on my list is the Brazilian rainbow boa. I just love these guys. They are orange with like these dark circles on their bodies, and they have this iridescent shine in the sunlight that is just amazing to behold. There are also Colombian rainbow boas, but they don't have that bright orange coloring with the dark circles. Instead, they are a lot more muted. They're almost like silver with iridescence. And I'm not as into those as I am the Brazilian rainbow boas. That being said, Brazilian rainbow boas are also a more advanced snake, and a lot of people have had trouble keeping them alive. And so as interested in them as I am, I do want to hold off for quite a while before I decide to get one, because I want there to actually be a better understanding out there of what it takes to keep a Brazilian rainbow boa in captivity successfully before I go out and get one. Next on my list is the only big snake that I'm really interested in, and that is a boa constrictor. I know boa constrictor is a pretty broad term, and honestly at this point I'm really not picky. I would be interested in a BCI or a BCC. They don't have to be a red-tailed boa, but I would love to have a red-tailed boa. At this point, however, where I live, I just don't have room for a boa constrictor. I just don't have the space. But one day in the future, when I do eventually move to a bigger place, I would love to have a boa constrictor. I think that would be amazing. They are incredible animals with amazing personalities, and I would just love to have one day, even if that means I have to wait a little while before I get one. Next on my list is a really common pet that I don't have, but I have had in the past when I was much younger, and that is a cat. That's right, I would love to have a cat. You guys probably already know that I have a dog. Her name is Buffy, but Buffy really likes cats. She likes cats so much that I am pretty sure Buffy wants to get a cat. And so I've got to do what my baby girl Buffy wants, and I got to get her a cat. Like I said, when I was much younger, I actually did have a cat myself. I've actually had 2 cats in my lifetime. One of them was named Orion, after the cat from Men in Black, and the other one was named Luna, which was actually short for lunatic because she was crazy. I loved both of those cats dearly. However, I lived with my parents when I got those cats, and in both cases, my parents got rid of the cat when I wasn't home. Even though my parents didn't want any animals in the house, I kept pressing my luck with it, and every time I would get a cat, I would have the cat for a few weeks, maybe even a few months, and then randomly one day when I wasn't home, my parents would get rid of it. Next on my list is actually probably the only rodent that I'm actually interested in right now, and that is a hamster. But Jeremy, didn't you do a collaboration several months ago with Anna Louise discussing rats and how to take care of them? Yes, I did. And I was researching rats at that time, and because of what I found through my research and through talking to people like Anna Louise, I decided that rats are not the animal for me. Mostly because you have to keep them in a group. And if I were to get a rodent or something like that, I wouldn't necessarily want to get a group of them. I would probably want to start out with just getting one. And for that reason, a hamster makes more sense. Hamsters are solitary animals that are best kept alone. They don't get along with each other. In fact, they fight if you put them together. And so I think that if I were to get a rodent, a hamster would be the one I would want to get. I know a lot of people in the community who keep hamsters. There are a lot of YouTubers that I watch who keep hamsters, and I've learned a lot about hamster care from those individuals. If I were to get a hamster, I think I would actually want to get a Syrian hamster. In my opinion, those are just the cutest hamsters that there are, but I wouldn't be opposed to getting a dwarf hamster or a robo hamster or something like that. It's just the Syrian hamsters are the ones at the top of my list. Another animal that I'm really interested in is actually guinea pigs. And I know, I just shot down rats because they're a communal species, and guinea pigs are a communal species, but guinea pigs are so freaking cute though! I would love to keep some guinea pigs. And I know there are a lot of people who will say that rabbits are a better pet than guinea pigs, or that rabbits are cuter than guinea pigs. And I know that guinea pigs and rabbits are very similar in their care. It's just I'm personally more interested in guinea pigs than rabbits. Sue me, whatever. I'm not weird, you are. I still have a lot to learn, however, about guinea pigs before I would be ready to actually get some. And on top of that, I currently don't have the space for them, so I'm not going to be getting guinea pigs while I live where I live now. Next on my list is actually the only saltwater animal that I'm interested in keeping, and that is the dwarf cuttlefish. If you've been in my live streams before, you know I've talked about this, but I really want dwarf cuttlefish. Yes, there is a species of cuttlefish you can keep as a pet. They are the dwarf cuttlefish. They max out somewhere around 4 inches rather than, several feet like a regular cuttlefish out in the wild does. And they do really well in a reasonably sized saltwater tank, something like a 29-gallon, for example. Now, I've never kept a saltwater tank before, and I actually do have plans for next year to start my first saltwater tank. And my intention is to get comfortable with having a reef tank, to really learn the ins and outs of having a reef tank. And I'm only going to keep corals and maybe a couple of clownfish in there, and that's about it. And then I'm going to have that tank for a year or two just to get comfortable with having a saltwater tank. And then once I do feel like I know how to successfully keep a reef tank, my plan is to rehome those clownfish so that when I get my dwarf cuttlefish, it doesn't eat them. Cuttlefish are amazing. They can change colors, and not just colors, but also their texture to blend in with just about anything. And they've also been known to flash really bright colors when hunting to sort of hypnotize their prey. And so I think it would be amazing to keep 1 or 2 dwarf cuttlefish in like a 29-gallon reef tank. One big downside, however, to keeping dwarf cuttlefish is that they don't live very long. They max out somewhere around 1 year old. So it's going to be a very short experience keeping them. So if you want the maximum amount of time keeping a dwarf cuttlefish, I've heard that you have to get them as eggs and hatch the eggs yourself, so that way you get that full year with them. Otherwise, you might only have them for a few months. Another really weird animal that I would love to keep one day is actually a lesser siren. Lesser sirens are amazing. They are amphibians. In fact, they are salamanders, but they are very similar to an axolotl. In fact, their head has the external gills, just like an axolotl does, but their body is like an eel's body or like a ropefish's body. It's like an axolotl head on a ropefish's body. It is the weirdest thing, and it's amazing, and I want one. They can get really long too. They don't max out at like a foot long like an axolotl does. They can get several feet long. I do, however, still have a lot more research to do before I would feel comfortable taking in a lesser siren and keeping it as a pet. But I would love to do that someday, and it is definitely on my radar. Another animal that I would like to keep someday is actually poison dart frogs. Now, poison dart frogs are different from several other frogs in the sense that in the wild, they secrete a poison from their skin. However, when kept in captivity, that doesn't happen. It is believed that there is actually a certain type of ant that they eat when they live in the wild that causes them to be poisonous, and when they're in captivity, that ant is no longer a part of their diet, and so they don't secrete that poison from their skin. But they do come in a variety of bright, vibrant colors, and they are just amazing little animals. I love watching them eat. They're very robotic in their motions when they eat, and they do really well in a bioactive setup, more so than any other kind of setup. In fact, it's almost required for you to have a bioactive setup if you're going to keep poison dart frogs. And last on my list is I would love to have more millipedes. In specific, I would love to have a giant African millipede. The giant African millipede grows to be several feet long. It is just a beast of a millipede, and it scares a lot of people, but I think they are so cool to see. They're jet black, they have hundreds of legs, and being as big as they are, you can see every detail on them, and they're just amazing to watch and amazing to interact with. I would love to have a giant millipede that I could handle and let crawl around on me, on my arms and on my shoulders. I just think that would be so cool to have. I am also interested in other types of millipedes as well. Currently, I have some Florida ivory millipedes. However, I do think it would be cool to have other types of millipedes as well. It's just that the giant millipedes are the ones that I'm most interested in, but unfortunately, they're also the ones that are the hardest to find. Now, there are a couple of YouTubers who have those types of millipedes, and I have been talking to them. They are trying to get those millipedes to breed. Maddie, Tyler, hello. If your millipedes breed, I want some. Just a reminder. Well, there you have it, guys. That is my list of animals that I would love to keep as a pet someday. Like I said at the beginning of this video, I have no intention of going out and getting all of these animals and keeping them all at the same time. That would be insane. That would just be a lot of work. More work than I'm interested in doing. Right now, the number of pets that I have is good. Like I said, I might acquire a few animals in the near future, but nothing major, nothing high maintenance or anything like that. Most of the animals that were on this list are animals that I want to get eventually, not animals I want to get next week. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, make sure you hit that like button down below. And also, if you're new here, hit that subscribe button as well as the notification bell so that way you get notified when I upload a new video. As always, thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.